A former senior official on Israel's National Security Council has called on soldiers in the country's army to refuse orders that could lead to the commission of war crimes in Gaza. Eran Etzion, who served under 4 prime ministers, told the BBC he feared war crimes might already have been committed in Gaza. Israel rejects allegations that its forces are carrying out the forced displacement of thousands of civilians and blocking aid from reaching those in need. The leading British war crimes lawyer, Professor Philip Sands KC, said that while Israel had a right to self-defence, it was clear to any reasonable person that war crimes were being committed. Israel is not allowing international journalists, including the BBC, independent access to Gaza. Our special correspondent Fergal Keane has been working with BBC Verify to bring you this report and a warning it contains distressing images.
It is a vast, unfolding crisis. Israel filmed these images of people fleeing the offensive by its forces in northern Gaza. Tens of thousands. Hungry, frightened, told by Israel to leave. They carry what they can, away from their homes, with no knowing when they will be allowed to return. Elsewhere, the Israeli military screens the men for anyone suspected of links with Hamas. Inside Jabalia's Kamal Adwan hospital today, the wounded. This man is crying, "All my children are gone." Another says to him, "I've been telling you for a week that you should leave your house." An exhausted nurse sent this voice note.
We don't have water. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. I am so tired. The situation is very, very, very bad.
There was supposed to be a polio vaccination campaign today, not a procession of wounded children. Nearly half of Gaza's population is under 18, and child casualties appear again and again. It is hard to look upon such suffering, but it is a fact of this war. The Israel Defense Forces blame Hamas for this, saying they use the population as human shields. We spoke about the crisis with one of Britain's most senior war crimes lawyers, who's led cases against Myanmar for genocide and on Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories at the International Court of Justice. Professor Philippe Sands, KC, says Israel has the right to self-defence after the October 7th attacks, but is now breaking international law.
It has to be proportionate. It has to meet the requirements of international humanitarian law. It must distinguish between civilians and military targets. It doesn't allow you to use famine as a weapon of war. It doesn't allow you to forcibly deport or evacuate large numbers of people. It's impossible to see what is going on now in Gaza, as it's impossible to see what happened on the 7th of October and not say crimes are screaming out.
There's little public dissent over the army's conduct of the war, but a former security official is speaking out. Eran Etzion served under 4 Israeli prime ministers and was deputy head of the country's National Security Council. A critic of Prime Minister Netanyahu, he fears vengeance is leading Israel into war crimes. Do you believe war crimes are taking place?
I fear that they might be, yes.
And what should they do?
They should refuse. If a soldier or an officer is expected to commit something that might be suspected as a war crime, they must refuse. We were attacked savagely on October 7th, and there is no question, not about the savagery, not about the brutality, not about the malicious intentions of Hamas. There's no question about that. And we obviously had and still have the full right of self-defense. Again, that's beyond any question. But this doesn't give us the right to, obviously, not to commit war crimes. And also not to sink to the level of the terrorist organizations.
Some aid has crossed the border. People are still fleeing Jabalia. We asked the IDF for an interview, but they said no spokesperson was available today. They did refer us to an earlier statement which said the IDF will continue to act as it's always done according to international law. And today the Army's humanitarian relief wing said they were committed to allowing aid into Gaza without limit. This is Israel's narrative, but with scenes of civilian suffering flowing out of northern Gaza, it is being widely challenged. Fergal Keane, BBC News, Jerusalem.